Our next movie is the 2017 Martin Scorcese movie Silence, starring Andrew Garfield, Adam Driver, and Liam Neeson. It's about two priests, Father Garupe and Father Rodriguez, who learn from their boss, the head priest, Father Melignano, that their mentor has committed apostasy. He has given up the faith and is living as a Japanese. So the two priests can't believe this is true. So they go to Japan to find out, what really happened. Of course, Japan is in the midst of a brutal crackdown on Catholicism. So their journey is very, very dangerous. And this movie is about their story. This is a great movie. I really enjoyed this movie. It is not a normal movie. It is light on plot, character development. It's mostly dialogue, but it is about ideas. And they're fascinating, theological arguments about, faith versus, pride, what it means to be a martyr, is it worth it, and all these things, and it is just fascinating. The acting is terrific, as is usual for a Scorsese film, but I really like this movie. It's going to be on my top 10 list this year.
Yes, absolutely. I had to go and look up after I saw the film to see, was this based on was this a historical story or not. And so, while it is based off of a fictional book, it is historically accurate. So
yes.
These very much could have been real people,
right?
And of course, that makes sense with it being having happened in a foreign land when it did. However, like I said, so it still is really difficult. The scenes are really they resonated with me very much because of both the faith aspect. And because while again these were fictional characters, these are things that likely happen to some degree to actual people. The acting is so strong. I have to be honest, this is the first film, at least that I recall seeing Adam Driver, that wasn't Star Wars, to really see his acting.
He's very good.
Yes. And Andrew Garfield continues to impress. I mean, everyone's excited that the Amazing Spider-Man, fizzled out in order so they can get the Marvel version, which is certainly a superior version. But I'm excited to get Andrew Garfield out of those because
he can do movies like this.
Yes, yeah,
and Hacksaw Ridge.
Yes. And he also has Breathe has just come out, which I haven't seen yet.
Neither have I.
But again, he's such a good actor. The acting is so powerful. Again, like you said, it's not a strong story. You feel like you're there. You're walking with these people during this difficult time. It is so powerful. And of course, Martin Scorcese, one of the all-time best directors.
Yes.
It's seeking this film out. Unfortunately, it had a very limited release. Not a lot of
people went to it.
A lot of people saw it because of being 3 hours and a limited release. But it is absolutely worth your time, and I give it a 3.5 stars out of 4.
That's what I would give it to. What I liked about this movie is that it doesn't try to shoehorn a plot in it. It has a conflict, obviously, but it's about ideas. It's about these great philosophical discussions, and what Scorsese does is that he finds a way to take these important theological questions and dramatize them so they have weight to them, and they have they actually play out. This isn't just like a bunch of people sitting around and talking. It's not like it's not like watching a college lecture. It plays out physically. It could conceivably be done as on the stage. That's how dialogue and idea heavy this is, but it wasn't. And it's just, even if you're not a person of faith, I mean, I am, and I know you are, but they're just fascinating to think about. And what I also liked is that how Scorsese doesn't take sides. He was raised Catholic and even considered becoming a priest, but now he's agnostic. So he's the perfect man to direct this material.
Yeah.
And he just asks these questions. And well, I got the sense that he had his own point of view about them. He leaves it up to us to figure them out.
Right.
And to come to our own conclusions. And I really enjoyed that,
Yeah.
And one thing that also must be mentioned is that this movie, it looks incredible. It looks fantastic. The cinematography by Rodrigo Prieto, who did Brokeback Mountain, it's fantastic. It looks incredible. I mean, it, even though it's a drama, it's one of those movies that you'd really do well to seek it out on Blu-ray, because it just looks that great.
Yes.
And, I give it a 3.5 out of 4 too, because it does get a little long, but at the same time, it's not because of ego or, self-indulgence. Scorsese has a lot he wants to say, and that's why it's so long.
Right.
But I really do think it's worth seeking out. I've watched it twice. I'm going to see it again many more times, just so I can, experience these theological questions are just so fascinating to contemplate.
Right, yeah. I love a movie that gives you something to talk about afterwards, as far as ideas go, or something to debate.
Yeah.
It's not just the quality of the film itself.
Yeah.
And this is one of those films where, where the ending, it gives you something to talk about.
Yeah, this is a movie you want to see with a bunch of people, and then have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and talk about it afterwards.
Yeah.
One thing, that I liked about this, another thing I liked about this film is that it actually takes these theological questions seriously. There are a lot of, there are more than a few Christian films out there these days that basically use questions like these as a way to kind of rile up, people who are going to be predisposed to liking it. I know you like God's Not Dead, but I did not. And this movie is basically, it does what God's Not Dead didn't do. And it takes them seriously. It gives weight to both sides. God's Not Dead basically used those theological questions as basically a cynical, Christian revival almost. And in addition to being a terrible movie in general, it had this, cynical, alienating vibe to it that I just found quite frankly offensive. But this movie actually takes them seriously, and I think in order to understand, the faith, you have to be able to take a critical look at these issues that define our belief system, and Scorsese does that. He actually takes them so seriously, and he makes us think. He doesn't, tell us what to think, and I really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. I mean, with the majority of religion depicted in film nowadays is usually done either from a proselytizing or made for that one audience. So with God's Not Dead, it was made for
War Room.
Yes. Or it's done, or it's an easy target for comedy, to be made fun of, to be treated disrespectfully. And yes, this film looks at, gives you a critical, but also a respectful look.
Oh yeah, it's very respectful.
Yeah, these people, and that's something to be appreciated and celebrated. And another reason that I really enjoyed this film.
I was surprised that. Because it demands that we take a hard look at ourselves and what we believe in. I was surprised it wasn't, controversial when it was released, because you think that, at least for a certain number of people, it would be, some people would be offended that, a movie would dare make them question, what they believed, because, as this movie points out, Catholicism and Christianity in general as this kind of like heroic martyr, narrative that a lot of people truly deeply believe in, and this movie actually questions the wisdom of it. And you're right; it does so in a respectful way, but it nonetheless asks, challenges that, and asks, is it worth it? Is it, is allowing people to die while you stay hidden an example of them becoming martyrs, or is it just your own ego?
Right.
And that was fascinating to contemplate.
Right.
And it's a great movie.
Yeah. When I first saw this film advertised, I had the same concern because of Scorsese's past film, The Last Temptation of Christ, which was extremely controversial.
Yeah.
And so I had the same concerns. It may simply be because it was overlooked.
Yeah.
It didn't receive some of that. But I'd like to think that audiences matured, that people who saw it instead of just jumping to conclusions about it,
right? And
for that reason, they accepted it because it does, again, it's done in a respectful way. It's not in a way that goes against against the faith. It's there's stories that are, of course, part of the Bible where people denounce the faith in order to save their lives, or did martyrs,
right?
So that's part of the history of the faith.
Yeah.
So, and again, the way it was done respectfully from both sides. So, I'm glad that it didn't get undeserved controversy.
Yeah. You're right. This movie is incredibly respectful, but at the same time, it does ask those questions. It's a narrow type to balance it, but Scorsese does it beautifully. I think this is one of his best films. I really do. It's right up there with Taxi Driver and Goodfellas and Gangs of New York. And he's not like a consistently on director, but even his weakest films, like Bringing Out the Dead, they're going to be at least interesting to watch. And this is much more than that. As of right now, it's my number 4 film of the year. I really enjoy this movie. I think everyone should see it. Even if you are deeply faithful, especially if you're deeply faithful, this film will challenge you, but not in a way that will challenge your faith. It's actually a very spiritual film, which it's challenging in the sense of like, what does it all mean? Not like it doesn't ask the question like what is the right faith. That's not what he's asking here. It's about what it all means. What is faith? What is God's word? And those are the questions that it asks, and it does so in such a fascinating and compelling and beautiful way. This movie looks incredible. It's so well acted. I really wish more people would find this film. Yeah. It is so worth seeking out.
Absolutely.